Hello, welcome back to this video series on A Course in Miracles. I'm Tomas Garza. We're going to talk about a couple of things that we all have some experience with here today. One is conflict, and the other is the resolution of conflict. In other words, forgiveness. The central idea that we're working with today in the workbook is lesson 333. Forgiveness ends the dream of conflict here. Forgiveness ends the dream of conflict here. Now, point of emphasis. With the Course in Miracles, as you may have discovered, and this may attract you to this material, and it may repel you from this material, and it may do both at the same time. It presents a non-dual picture of spirituality, which is the way it is, right? Truth. There is only oneness, only love. God is. Period. It's beyond concepts. It's beyond words. And A Course in Miracles operates in a lot of different ways. Ultimately, it's all one presentation. Yet we appear to be 8 billion and counting here in the world, which means there are 8 billion and counting apparent individual approaches to what we call the spiritual path. What this means is that there's a lot of different ways of looking at it. And one of those is to deliver a very uncompromising, non-dual presentation of the material, the level of which it can be understood. It can also be understood on other levels that don't even touch this. However, this is a path for people on all of these levels, from all approaches. That's what universal means. When the Course says it's universal in theme and application, it means it actually literally is for everyone. Now, if you really want the peace of God, and I mean if you've literally examined your life, if you've really been honest with yourself and you've arrived at the conclusion that this is what you want and nothing else, then it may be that it's time for the uncompromising, direct approach. Only you can ever hope to be the judge of that, because you are the decision maker. I'm not the decision maker for you. I'm here to deliver the message of the Holy Spirit that some of you need to hear. Some of you may just turn this video away and go scroll and watch something else, because there's a lot of shit on YouTube, if I may be so blunt, so obvious as to say. There's a lot out there, and this is a level of presentation that demands honesty from you. Ultimately, it demands this level of honesty from all of us. Forgiveness ends the dream of conflict here. How do we end conflict? Well, as we discover in the world, sometimes to our great frustration, we can't end it by denying it and pretending it doesn't exist. Does that ever work in a relationship where there's some conflict and you want to will it away, but you can't because you don't fucking deal with it? How about that, right? We don't have to self-identify as having done that to ourselves and others. That's just one example. Ultimately, there is no conflict because there is no other. However, here in the world where we experience conflict rampantly, we need a tool to resolve it. That tool is forgiveness. We cannot, as Jesus tells us, run away from conflict and hope to resolve it. We cannot deny its existence and hope to resolve it. We cannot say, I'm not ready for this and hope to resolve it. Now, if you're not ready for it, you're not ready for it, so be it, right? But you can't, at the moment, hope to resolve it. It can't be evaded, as Jesus says, set aside, disguised, seen somewhere else. That's a good one. Yeah. It can't be projected, in other words. It has to be dealt with. It has to be seen for what it is, as it is, and dealt with. No denial. Ultimately, it's not possible. In order for each of us to attain the peace of God, we must see all of the conflict that we ourselves have created in our own mind for what it is, and it must be resolved, dealt with. How? Forgiveness. We don't deal with it by making an enemy of this. This is a point that I've made on other lessons and other videos that, well, I've written about it. It's one of the central themes of my first book, Decide, which is entitled Decide, by the way. Choose love, in other words, now. It's something that's really, really of great importance to me. Every time I turn on this camera and this microphone, it seems to always come up, doesn't it? Yeah. It seems to always come up that we have a real choice in the present moment. And we cannot hope to resolve conflict through the same attitude that created it in the first place. I would call to your attention, which is well known and often quoted, luckily, often quoted, Einstein's definition of insanity, which is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. So we can't solve conflict from the state of mind that produced it in the first place. Therefore, in order to truly resolve it, we cannot demonize it. We cannot vilify it. We cannot kick fear in the face. I know that's a popular saying. Yeah, I invite you to consider a different way to truly attain the peace of God. Can't make an opponent of it. There is no opponent. You have no opponent of any kind. So how do you deal with conflict? Lovingly. That is how it is resolved, lovingly, through the practice of forgiveness. Remember, this is a video about A Course in Miracles. It's through this practice of forgiveness that we discover that there's no conflict to be had, and we forgive everyone that's involved in this conflict, including ourselves. We forgive our own mind and see that this was all nothing. Doesn't mean you didn't suffer. You may very well have suffered, and you may be very deep in the midst of that right now. Again, I'm speaking about the level of ultimate truth. It's beyond words. This is how we approach it. I'm pointing to it. Jesus is pointing to it. This is what a teacher can do. We cannot have the experience for you, but we can point the way. We can say things that may uplift you, and I hope that I do. we can say things that challenge you. And I hope that I may do just that. Sure, I do. Good. Understand that Jesus, the Holy Spirit, your inner teacher, mean all of this lovingly. There's a large degree of personal responsibility that's involved in spirituality. A Course in Miracles isn't for kids, so to speak. It's for adults, isn't it? Because we have to look at the conflict, and in forgiving it, we own our own creation of it, but we lovingly deal with it. We don't make it an opponent to perpetuate a cycle of conflict. We do not do pitched battle, and in a manner of speaking, we don't sharpen our blade, pull out our sword, and hack it to bits. We don't run the damn thing through. May sound attractive. It may feel good in the present moment to make an opponent out of something or someone, but this is not how we attain the peace of God, which knows no opponents. Forgiveness is the tool and the way that we have been given, a profound gift, to see things as they are, to end the dream of conflict. It's exactly as the day's idea says. Forgiveness ends the dream of conflict here. So the fact that you're watching this tells me, and if you're watching it to the end, I appreciate that, because it means you're serious. This is for serious students, isn't it? If you're just popping in and you're curious about all of this, I do, of course, invite you to go all the way back to the beginning. There are a number of introductory videos that talk more about A Course in Miracles, what it is, and how one can use this material in daily life. If you've seen more than one of the videos, or I know some of you have watched them all the way through, you can see that you really, even though the ego would love for you to put the cart before the horse and jump right in at less than 333, it won't mean as much. And it won't be anywhere near as effective if you don't start from the start. And because this demands that we set our ego aside, which can be short-term painful, can't it? I mean, nobody wants to really look at their shit when it comes right down to it. Yet that's exactly what Jesus is saying. Examine your own shit. See it for what it is. And let it go. Forgive. Release. Short-term pain to gain everything. And the more you develop the habit of it, the less that short-term pain is. Sometimes, not all the time. Not saying it's not there. We've become so accustomed to seeing ourselves as separate and cut off from everyone else that to adopt a different mindset can be a bit of a challenge. The fact that you're still watching this means that you're up to that challenge. And for that, your practice, I thank you above all else. This is love in action. Forgiveness is love in action. How do you resolve conflict? With love. You don't deny that it exists in your life. You just take a look at it and see it for what it is. Forgiveness ends the dream of conflict here. This is its purpose. So we all of us, know exactly what to do to end the dream of conflict right here, right now.